So let us start. See, as I said, first thing first, I discussed yesterday how to write the answer. Some few people are writing and sending it back. That's completely fine. Now, let us start with the first chapter itself. That is ethics and human interface. Let us try to understand the syllabus first. Ethics and human interface. In this, what they are asking, what is the essence? What do you mean by it? What is the essence of ethics? Right? What is the meaning of this? Essence means importance, right? What is the importance of ethics in human actions? That is what the question, or that is what the syllabus is. Understand the syllabus. Essence means importance. If they ask a question directly, what is ethics and what is the essence, you have to write importance of ethics. Now, let us look, right? Importance of ethics. You can write, again, think about writing. You can write it at the individual level, how it is going to help at the interpersonal level. Start at the individual, then how it is helping the individual at the interpersonal level, then go to the societal level, then go to the governance level and the political level. You can go and think about the economic front. You can go and you can think on the international relations front, right? And you can apply in public administration also. So whenever you are writing about the essence, it means they are asking you a simple question, how this ethics, the so-called ethics, what is ethics? I'll tell you, don't worry. Whenever they are asking this question, what you have to be is, you have to write essence, that is importance. Whenever you are writing importance, you have to write from these dimensions. Start at the individual level, go to the, first I will write about myself, then I will be entering into the society. First thing that I will be doing is I will be interacting with the persons. So write at the interpersonal level, that is the second thing. The third thing is, once you enter into society, how ethics is helping the society, that you have to write. The fourth thing is, think about on the same lines, the basket-wise approach, like political level. At the polity, how it is helping you. What is that polity? Maybe at decision making, right? Legislative bodies, executive bodies, judicial bodies, NGOs, self-help groups, or governance structures. Think on these lines. I'll discuss that. And then you can think about ethics in international relations, ethics in economics, how ethics is helping in environment. There is some branch called environmental ethics. You can think on that direction. And then if you look at the previous year questions, many questions have been asked from the so-called disaster management and how you are going to manage during disasters, the so-called ethics, right? In case study, they have asked these questions. So this is called ethics during disasters, how you can implement ethics. Then you can think about ethics and how it is related to international relations, sorry, internal security. That is the last aspect that you have. So whenever you are writing essence of ethics, in general, what they are asking is, they are asking you to say what is the importance of ethics. So these are the dimensions on which you have to think on while you are writing, right? This is the first thing. I'll tell you what you have to write, but this is how you have to think. Now the second part says determinants of ethics. Now what is this determinant of ethics? Now the term determinant means deciding, right? Now what does this topic in syllabus means? This means under which circumstance an act can be called as ethical act, under which circumstance an act can be called as unethical. Ethical means an act which is good, unethical means which is bad, right? So this is the thing. Ethics means knowing about what is good or bad. Ethics means knowing about good or bad. In any circumstance, what is good, what is bad, that is called ethics. It is a branch of moral philosophy that we will study, but the thing is, knowing about good and bad is ethics in layman terms. Keep the definitions as simple as possible. Go with the basic definitions with which you understand generally, right? So ethics means knowing what is good, what is bad. There will be some set of rules which says that this is good at this point of time, this is good at this point of time. That is called ethics. That's it. Don't confine or don't make the terms too technical. Confine it to the basic layman understanding. So the first thing is essence, that is called importance of ethics. The determinants of ethics is under which determinants means general meaning of determinant is decisions, or under which circumstance your act is going to be an ethical act and which is going to be an unethical. In this we'll be studying, see, any act, whether you are performing an ethical or unethical, that depends upon few factors. The first factor is it is going to depend upon the space it is going on to the time. The space and the time are the two factors which are going to determine your whether an act is correct or not. What is space and time? Say for example, sati, the policy of sati, that was accepted. I am saying about time first. Sati was considered a very normal thing during ancient times, during our ancient times, but today it is not the same thing. So what is changing here? The value is same, but the time is determining whether you have performed an act correctly or not, right? What about space? Space is the area in which you are conducting an act. Say for example, LGBT, the rights that LGBTs enjoy, they were not a normal thing in India until the recent Supreme Court judgment, but they were very regular things in the Western societies, right? So this is called space. So your value is going to determine on which part you are performing the act and which time you are performing the act. Say for example, space, right? Urinating is a bad thing. That is a bad thing in general. Now, urinating in public places, that is in a bus stand or near your railway station, that is a very grievous mistake. And consider this mistake with urinating in some temple sanctum sanctorium of a temple, then it is the heinous crime, right? So urinating on outside, if you have no other means, that is if there is no public toilets, if you are urinating outside, then that is considered as okay. But the degree of the crime is going to vary upon which space or which place that you are committing it and at which time you are doing it, right? These are the two factors basically which is going to determine the values of your ethics. So basically in determinants there are only two things, nothing more: time and space. And whatever you are going to write, they have to be, or they will be revolving around it. That may be individual values, societal values, about or the political values. They are all based on certain aspects of place and time. So that is the only thing that you have in this. Consequences of ethics in human actions. Now again, it is more or less related to the essence of ethics. Ethics is going to play certain a good role in human actions, right? An ethical person, what is the consequences if you are doing some action with ethical consequence? Or if your intent is good, how your action is going to be? If your intent is bad, or if your intent is unethical, then how it is going to be? So let us understand, essence of ethics itself has certain things called consequences of ethics in human actions. That is another thing that you have to understand, right? So consequences of ethics, if you are following ethics in your actions, how it is going to be? If you are not following, how it is going to be? Best example, Gandhiji versus Adolf Hitler. Gandhiji followed ethics for independence. That is why even after Chauri Chaura incident, he has called off the movement. Though the movement was at a very high stage, he has called off the movement because a violence has struck place in a place called Chauri Chaura in Uttar Pradesh. Now compare the same thing with an action which is done by Adolf Hitler, right? So you can compare these things. So whether the society or whether the progress that the humans are going to make is going to be determined by the ethical actions. So essence is again related to the consequences. This is what I wanted to say. So in this way, you can write some examples. Consequences of ethics in human actions. You can consider any example in this. For example, in the corporate ethics, consider Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, who has fled out of the country. For them, they have made a separate act called Fugitive Economic Offenders Act, right? Compare these persons with someone who has some ethical values such as Tatas, who has donated during the times of COVID-19, right? You can compare and you can write how ethics forms a basic foundation for the development of an organization, at all levels, right? This is called consequences of ethics, which is related to it. Understand the syllabus. Next is dimensions of ethics. Dimensions of ethics. This is the theoretical part. See, in ethics, there is nothing called good or bad. I always said this, right? The only thing which is going to determine whether good or bad is going to be on your theory, right? Here we'll study about some theories called consequentialism, non-consequentialism, and virtue ethics. Only three things: consequentialism, non-consequentialism, virtue ethics. In this, there is some classification called as deontological approach, utilitarian approach, right? Self-egoistic approach, and then Sarvadharma Samabhavana approach of Gandhiji, right? And then there is one more concept, beautiful concept called virtue ethics. This is going to be one of the best things that we will be discussing over a period of time. Now, once you are done with this, we'll be moving to the next topic, that is called ethics in private and public relationship. Now, ethics in private and public relationships, this has some relevance with the thing called public and civil services values. Right? What appears to be right to me in my private life, if I come to public life, then it might not be the same thing. Say, for example, in public life, many people say that intercaste marriages can be welcomed, right? When they ask a general opinion about dowry or intercaste marriages or interreligious marriages, they say that, okay, in a progressive society, more or less people say that it is completely fine. But when you come to their private life and if you ask them, they will be not willing to follow these norms. That is, they will be still willing to take dowry. They will be still willing to go with the marriages in the same caste or in the same community. That is the difference. So why that difference exists? It has something to do with your attitude. It has something to do with the civil services also. Because more or less, many questions will be asked from the view of civil services. If you have become a civil servant, then how ethics is going to be from your perspective at your personal life, and how it is going to vary at the professional life, that you have to decide. So we'll be discussing that in this aspect. Now let us look at the next topic, that is called understand the syllabus. I am just, after this, I am going to take you to the previous year questions that was done by Rukmini, right? I will be sharing that. I will show you what are the answers for these things from that. No need to study a lot of things. We'll confine and we'll try to get the answers from the material we have. Now, the second aspect is human values. Here you have to understand what is value, how it is different from ethics. That is the first thing, because now look at the previous year question. They have asked what is values, how they are different from ethics. That is what you have to know, and what are human values that you have to understand. Now they are saying lessons from the lives and teachings of great leaders, great reformers, and great administrators. Here there are three persons. One is great leaders across the world, right? Great reformers across the world, great administrators. Maybe you can confine administrators to India, right? Right? Great leaders you can take from across the world. Now link this with this concept. Contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and the world. Whenever you are preparing, this has to go together. And believe me, it is highly impossible to study each and every leader, to study each and every reformer, each and every administrator, each and every thinker and philosopher from India and the world. We should have certain base, whenever they ask about some person, whatever the person is, there will be some ethical values. Otherwise, they won't ask the question. See, they might ask either about Hitler or they might ask about Gandhiji. So the thing is, there will be two set of personalities, one who is very ethical or who is not ethical. The only thing that you have to prepare is, you cannot prepare each and every person. The only thing that you have to prepare is what should be the answer if this category persons are asked, or if this category persons are asked. You have to know which category that is, and you have to write what you are taking from them. Again, I repeat, it is very difficult to go after each and every person. But in brief, you should know, okay, if it is an ethical person, what should be the answer? If it is an unethical personality, what should be the answer? Only two things. Again, don't go after each and every one, right? That is the thing. And yes, if time permits, we will go through them. Some of the leaders who has really done well, some of the great reformers who has done really well, some of the administrators who have really done well. Why we go through them is again to substantiate your answers. Again, substantiation comes. I hope you do remember what is substantiation. Yesterday's class, I said substantiation is justification of your answer. Whenever you are writing something, you have to substantiate, and that substantiation comes from these persons. One is your substantiation comes from this. The second substantiation that you are going to get is from this. Right? Here only the game is done, more or less. The rest of the things will be your current affairs. Now, they are asking one more concept, that is called role of family, society, and educational institutions in inculcating values. Role of family, role of society, role of educational institutions in inculcating values. Right? This is values that they are asking, human values, and under this they are asking all these questions. However, the first part of this is lessons from life's great teachings and reformers and administrators. It has a direct link through your concept called contribution of moral thinkers, and they can be used for substantiation. If you prepare few people who are really important, we can use them for substantiations, right? They will be interchangeably used. But in order to write answers from these perspectives, you have to write only from two directions. Which personality you are addressing to, whether a personality who is based on some ethical values like Gandhiji, or whether a personality who is based on some unethical values such as Adolf Hitler. These are the things, right? The rest of the game is simple, same, more or less. You'll change the name of the person, but you'll write the same things. Now, role of family, society, and educational values in inculcating, educational institutions in inculcating values. Now, look at this. It itself is saying that family, society, and educational institutions are playing some role in building the ethics of individuals. I repeat, the term itself says there is some internal meaning of this question. Role of family, role of society, role of educational institutions in inculcating values. Now, these three things, family, society, and educational institutions, they are going to act as the sources of ethics again. The sources for ethics are how you can build ethics in persons. If you want to build ethics in some personalities, in some people, these are the basic tools, and this strategy will never change. That is, it starts at parents, that is called family, it goes to school, it goes to educational, it goes to educational institutions, it goes to society. This is the hierarchy. I will be born in my family, so my family is going to play a primary role. The second role will be played by my educational institutions. Once I am done, I will be coming out to the society. I will be interacting with the society, and these fellows will be playing a crucial role in forming my ethics. So, more or less, look at this essence of ethics, right? I said these are the factors that are playing a key role. Now, in this ethics itself, you have to write certain dimensions from family, society, and educational institutions. Why? Ethics, family will play certain part in building your ethics, society plays some part in building your ethics, and educational institutions play a crucial role in building your ethics, right? That is the thing. So this is the first topic. So what is the message from first thing? What is the message that you have from the first topic? The message is, one second, yeah. So what is the message that this topic has? The message is simple. These are the basics that you should know. One thing is, what is ethics you should know, what is values you should know, right? What are human values? Human values, where you can find it out? You can find it out in fundamental rights. Whatever the rights that were given, they are called human rights or fundamental rights, which are very important from individual perspective. So use your knowledge of preamble and fundamental rights for human values. Whatever your fundamental rights are there, if you have known how these fundamental rights were formed by Constituent Assembly for PSIR students, if you have studied that, right, then you will be knowing human values are more or less taken and incorporated in your fundamental rights. So you should know the meaning of values, you should know the meaning of ethics. That's it. Here, these are the two things that you should know. And essence of ethics, I said how to address individual level, interpersonal level, societal level, and go as per your basket wise. Determinants of actions of ethics, only two perspectives. It is either dependent on the space factor, or it is dependent on the time factor. Examples, again, what I said, right? Sati, during ancient times, it is accepted, but it is not accepted now. Whereas if you come like LGBT rights or same sexual marriages, these were widely accepted in the Western societies, but they were not accepted in the Eastern societies. You can say that as an example. So determinants, only two things. After that, you have one more thing that is called consequences of ethics in human actions. I said it has certain relations with essence itself. Whenever you are discussing about essence, you will be determining the consequences also, right? I said, if your action is based on ethics, what is the profit that you are going to get? If your action is based on unethical means, what is the profit that you are going to, what is the loss that you are going to make? So that is called consequences of ethics, positive, negative, only two things here. Either it will be positive, either it will be negative. The only thing that we have to give is examples like Gandhi, Hitler, like Vijay Mallya, Jamshedji Tata. So you can give these type of examples. Next, dimensions of ethics is one thing that we have to study separately, like ethics and ethics and values, right? Here, there will be something called theory. You have to be very well aware of that theory, because it is going to be one more part of your substantiations. Next, ethics in private and public relationships. I said, like, it is more related to public and civil services values, right? They will ask in this context, if you are becoming a civil servant, then how it is going to vary in your private life and how values are going to vary in your public life. So that is the thing. In general also, I said examples of dowry, intercaste marriages. Generally, we go and accept that this has to be not the norm. But when it comes to our own domain, we don't do the same thing. The same thing applies. We blame corruption, but when our work has to be done in government schools or government offices or government institutions, we will go, and what we will do is we will give some bribery, or we will bribe the officers. So this is what private and public relationships are there, right? This is the thing, right? And if you look at the previous year questions also, you have certain things called conflict of interest, which arises from the so-called public and private relationships. Say, for example, you might be a good husband or you might be a good wife, right, to your partner. But when it comes to the public relationships, your domination of that love should not be reflected in the public relationships. Say, for example, if my wife's brother is attending some interview, I should not give that favoritism in public relationship or private relationship. So in private relationship, I can give it, but in public relationship, it is going to vary. So if you look at previous year questions, this we call it as conflict of interest, and conflict of interest is one branch of private and public relationship. It has certain relationships again with the so-called public services values. In this, you have one thing called, again, you have one thing called partisanship, non-partisanship, impartiality. So this is how it is linked. I hope you are getting the point. Ethics in private and public life, it is more dealing with showing non-partisanship at two different angles. And then in our public service values, it is going to be the most important thing. We will take the inputs for this from here and we are going to apply. That's it. Next one is human values. I said you'll be linking this topic to moral values, philosophies, and this can be used for substantiating the answers. And then role of family, society, educational institutions. These are the sources, or these are the places where values can be inculcated. If you want to make a human being very ethical, these are the institutions you should go the same way. And anything, even if you want to cultivate the so-called attitude can be cultivated only through these stages. It has to be cultivated at the family, then it has to be cultivated at the school, it has to be cultivated at the societal levels. right? Now look at this, how you can link this. There is one thing called political attitudes. There was a question previously. What is that question? Many young people, though they were ethical, they were not coming into politics. Suggest some measures how they can come into politics. This was the question. Now they are asking how you can cultivate the political attitude in an individual who are very ethical. Now, how should be the answer? It should start here, right? It should start at family. It should go to the society. It should go to the educational institutions. At the family level, parents should be welcoming to send their children. Parents should be welcoming to send their children to the so-called political institutions. At the educational institutions, they have to imbibe the leadership qualities right from childhood. They have to conduct some youth parliament type of things. And then at the societal level, society should accept a new person who is entering with ethical values, right? So you can write the political angle also. But these are the three things which can form your political attitude, which can form your social attitude, which can form your moral attitude, right? So values, attitude is one value, and how it is forming in this way. There is some, guys, what I'm saying is, if you understand the syllabus, there is some interconnection in the syllabus itself. That is what we have to understand, or that is what I'm trying to make you to understand the things. If you understand what is this interconnection, and if you look at the previous year questions, 50% or 60% of the answer is done. No need to read even any book. Your answer will be here and from there, right? So attitude is one value, right? Aptitude is one value. So you can write all these as values again. Human values, you can write all this. Or ethics, you can write all this. There is some interrelationship among themselves. Now let us look attitude. The next chapter is attitude. Again, it is a human value, right? Positive attitude, negative attitude. Again, it has certain link with ethics, right? Ethics is good or bad. What is your attitude? What is your perception towards life, or what is your perception towards a particular case? Now, what is the content? And this is the theory again. Content, structure, and function, right? This is theory. We have to study. There will be some CAB model. What is the structure? How it is built? Or what is the function? We'll study this, right? This is theory. And how it is going to influence your thoughts and behavior, right? What is ethics? Behaving in a proper way, thinking in a proper way is called ethics, right? What is values? Good values and bad values. Good values means having good attitude, right? Again, your syllabus is linked here. So understand the syllabus. So if you want to inculcate the something called good values or good thoughts or good behavior, again, the process has to be the same way, right? And then they ask moral attitudes and political attitudes. We'll study what is the difference between them, but they will ask more or less the same thing. How moral attitudes can be cultivated in a society which is degrading, right? How political attitudes can be cultivated in some people who are very ethical. This was previous year question. Like in similar terms, they can ask the question. And then they are asking you social influence and persuasion. What are the techniques to pursue a person, right? What are the techniques to influence someone? This is, we'll study separately. And this comes here. What you have to study is, you have to understand what is the difference between influence and what is the difference between persuasion, and then how social influence is doing good, social influence is doing bad, how social persuasion is doing good, how social persuasion is doing bad. If you study these things, it will be done. Now next is aptitude. Know the difference. This is attitude, this is aptitude, right? There is a lot of difference. Aptitude, we have CSAT, right? Civil Services Aptitude Test. Not Civil Services Attitude Test, no. Civil Services Aptitude, right? Manogna is telling it is an inborn value, okay. Aptitude and foundational values of civil services. Look at the question, look at this heading. aptitude and foundational values of civil service. They are asking this. We should know the meaning, like what is aptitude. We'll study that. And they are asking that foundational values of civil services. And they have given these are the foundational values: integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, compassion towards weaker sections. No need to study anywhere. What are the foundational values of civil servants? This is the answer: integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, compassion towards weaker sections. If you write the same thing in a, say there are 7 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? If you draw some octagon or hexagon, and if you write, oh, these are the civil services values: objectivity, impartiality, then your answer is done. That will look beautiful, right? So the syllabus itself says no need to search for these things. This is whenever they ask what are the main features that a civil servant should contain. These are the things. In case studies, if they make you to be a civil servant, and if they ask you to solve a problem, you have to take these lines. Think on these lines. Immediately in the case, if you are given a role of heading a public department, or like an SP, or like a collector, then you have to think on these values itself. You have to write in your case study, these has to be the terms that you have to answer. Understood? This is at the personal level, guys. Attitude, ethics, yes, for civil servants it has to be for laymen also. But this is something which is entirely related to foundational values of civil services, that is for civil servants, right? If they ask you, you have to have this. And just like your ethics, aptitude, and attitude and values, you have to know the meanings of integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, compassion, sympathy. So you have to know the meanings of this. What is a better way? Just look at what does that mean in your mother tongue. It is very simple to understand. Otherwise, it takes time to understand. What is integrity? What is, we will discuss. But if you want to understand anything clearly, go and search in your mother tongue what is integrity, what is impartiality, non-partisanship. More or less, it will be clear. Or if you type in Google itself, integrity, Oxford Dictionary will come and it will show. Very simple. No need to by heart the things. Write in basic layman meaning. Don't need to write technical terms. Okay, that is the thing. Now, aptitude, foundational values of civil services. These are the foundational values. And your empathy, tolerance, and compassion, it has something to do with emotional intelligence. Now look at the syllabus of the frame. Emotional intelligence, it comes only when there is emotional intelligence. Only then whenever there is something called emotional intelligence, then only these things can come: empathy, tolerance, and compassion. When there is no emotions, how can you get empathy, tolerance, and compassion, right? So it has something to link with this. So this is one of the foundational values of civil servant. Again, hope you are getting the point, what I mean to say. Emotional intelligence, it has certain link with empathy, tolerance, and compassion, right? How to be empathetic towards a person, you have to be emotionally intelligent, and then you have to solve that point. So this is what is again one continuation of the previous syllabus, or continuation of the previous section: aptitude and foundational values of civil service. So emotional intelligence is one thing. Here we'll study what is emotional intelligence, concepts of emotional intelligence. We'll not read anything from previous year questions. We'll take the definition, because in previous year question itself, they have given some beautiful definitions of emotional intelligence. We are going to make the answer from that perspective. And then they are asking what is the utility of emotional intelligence and what is the applications in administration and governance. Look at this. What is the utility of emotional intelligence and what is the application of emotional intelligence in administration? Now, the utility of emotional intelligence is it makes you to be empathetic. It makes you to be tolerant towards other views. It makes you to be compassionate towards the weaker sections. This is the utility that you have in governance or in public administration, right? An emotionally intelligent person can do all these things, right? So again, this is the utility that you have. Look at the interconnection between the syllabus. If you understand the syllabus, you are going to get the answer. That is the point, right? I think in less than 1 minute, it is going to disconnect. I'm going to connect immediately, right? I hope you got this point. What is emotional intelligence? This thing we'll study. Concepts and utilities we'll study. But the thing is, application in administration and governance, again, more or less, it is related to empathy, tolerance, and compassion. What do I mean by this? Whenever you are collecting some data for empathy, tolerance, and compassion, data means some examples. Then you can use the same thing in emotional intelligence also. That's the point. Right? Next, I said contributions of moral thinkers and philosophers. You have to link with values,